you have to say much to your freshmen about entering ACC play, or do you try to let the seniors take care of that?
I say a few things, but I mostly let the older guys. You know, I've said for a couple of weeks that, hey, guys, we're trying to use this time period to get ready for ACC play because it is a higher level, the intensity, the noise, everything. And so they get some from me, but I think they get just as much from their teammates too.
What has it been like to coach Cam? I mean, since he obviously had experience when he came over, has he been kind of somebody who's more or less been on cruise control? You haven't had to do a lot with him.
Yeah, he's been really easy to coach. The difficult thing is just the injuries and his body hurting all the time. And he played even last year after he came back from the surgery. His body didn't feel good. So that's been the most difficult thing, is trying to say, okay, I need to push him a little bit more, or I shouldn't push him a little bit more because he's already hurting. But he's been very easy to coach. He's been a great teammate. He cares about the other guys. He's a good player. He still hasn't shot it consistently like I know he can, and I'm thinking that he's going to. But he's been really easy to coach, and he's been a great representative for us. His master's degrees, he's going to be the poster child for the program because he's done such a great job for that. So that part's been really easy.
I'm going to interrupt because follow-up question. Andrew Jones had one about Cameron. You answered the first part of it. Is he a good example of what's right about the grad transfer rule?
Yeah, I think it is, because he really does care about the academic side, and he's going to graduate with a degree, and it's a degree that's going to be meaningful. The people have loved having him, and so yeah, that's a good way to put it. But he's a great student, really done a nice job in everything.
He seems pretty, I mean, from our perspective, pretty level-headed. What do you think his emotions will be like tomorrow going back there?
You know, I don't know. I haven't even said anything about it. I really haven't. I had planned to do it after he gets his belly full at the meal tonight before we get on the plane. He's gotten more tickets than anybody else because he's got family and friends up there. But he's also a very bright youngster, as we said, and my guess is he'll channel it all into hopefully motivating him a little bit more. But I really would be surprised if he goes out there really nervous or anything. That's just not his nature. I haven't seen him nervous very many times.
What have you noticed different about his game physically from right now to last year? Things he can do better and be more effective?
He moves more freely, but it's pretty easy to see. You know, he's not as much pain. And last year, you know, he was grimacing all the time, and it wasn't fake. I really felt like that's the way he was. So the more freedom of movement, I think, has really helped him a great deal. Just healthy as a general whole, I think, is the biggest part of it. But I know he's enjoying this stuff more than he did last year.
Become more of a versatile scorer, you think?
I thought he was okay last year. I mean, he could take it to the basket and do those things. He and Kenny, both of them, I'm disappointed they've got to rebound the ball more. And last game, or maybe it's a Davidson game, Cam was 4 feet outside the three-point line when the shot was released, and he still got to the board and got the rebound and got fouled. And so, but it's not just those two, but we've got to get more rebounding from our 2-3. We don't have the guys that were the natural rebounder, Bryce and Kennedy, that the ball just seemed to find their hands. So we've got to go work at it. And both those guys, well, three of them, Nasir and Kenny and Cam, all three, have got to get more rebounding out of them.
You may have answered this with your comment, but with the small lineup that you're using a lot now, how has the rebounding been?
You know, the numbers look good, but it hadn't been very good. I mean, that's bottom line. I mean, 38-34 was the Harvard rebounding totals. That's not good. And the game prior to that was Davidson. I forget what those numbers probably were better. And in Kentucky, we got out-rebounded. So, yeah, it's still got to be the biggest, in my opinion, biggest point of emphasis for us is three of them, defensively turning it over and rebounding.
The fact that those are, I think we agree, pretty basic fundamental things. To make it easier or harder to look at this team and say, we got to fix this stuff, as opposed to more complicated?
Yeah, it's easier to fix because you can recognize it easily. I mean, 38-34 against Tommy's team, and it's pretty easy to figure out. We've got to rebound it better than that. But it's also, it's not just effort, but it is a thought process, and it is effort, and it is I still give you the example in Nasir, and maybe it was in the Davidson game, where he just ran down the floor and all of a sudden the ball bounced off and he dunks the heck out of it and the crowd goes crazy. But all he did was run in there. It wasn't any any trick play or anything. You've got to go. If you go, you got a chance. If you sort of like, again, way to make money in the stock market, you got to be involved. You got to invest. That's what you got to do. The more invest with your energy and your sweat, you accomplish more in basketball too.
You have a status on Sterling Manley's availability for tomorrow?
He will not play tomorrow.
Coach, have you had an opportunity to watch film on Pittsburgh yet?
Yes.
I know Jeff Capel's a new coach. Do they play any similarly to what Duke has done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, they some of their double screens or some of their screens are slipping, but it's Jeff's team. I mean, they play at a really fast pace. They're going to come at us like Kentucky came at us. I'd say they play at just a much faster pace, but, we played Jeff's team when he was at Oklahoma, but he's learned a great deal from Mike, and is going to be his foundation, his background, but they're a different looking team than what you're going to see when you see Duke.
Anything else?
You mentioned after the Harvard game that this is nowhere near where your team's ceiling can be. What do you think the ceiling can be and how good this team can be?
I think we can be really, really good. I said that to first press conference, and we're not really, really good. And so I can't tell you that we're on floor 11 and we can go to 72. But you look at the numbers yourself. I mean, our rebound margin, it looks good. But, I mean, we're not rebounding the ball well. Come on. And turnovers, it's not terrible, but it's not where we should be. And the defensive field goal percentage is not where it should be. So I think we can get a lot better. But I can't give you a number. But I do think we've got a chance to have a much better team than we have right now. And now we people all got excited about Gonzaga, but ball in the basket. You got to win some games when it doesn't go in the basket so easily. And our really, really good teams have won some games ugly. And we need to be able to win some games ugly with this team.
Cam did say you thought the work ethic was better against Gonzaga in general, even with the shooting and the ball going.
Yeah, you get a little more fired up against Gonzaga than you do some of the other teams, and I think all that, the attention to detail and the little extra bounce. But I would have thought we'd have had that against Kentucky too. And I had Jerry Tipton said, and I've known Jerry for 100 years. He said it just seemed like that Kentucky had a little more pep, a little more bounce in their step, and looked like that for me too. And I didn't like that part of it.
I know how much you love going back into the past and talking about stuff in the old days. But is there anything about this team and the issues it has that seems at all familiar to you?
This has been a unique team. No, not really. I mean, we've had teams that I've told you 100 times about 09. I kept begging and pleading, but they didn't believe in it until they had to believe in it because they just thought they were going to outscore everybody, and they didn't do it. It wasn't insubordination. It's just, Coach, we're going to beat them anyway kind of thing. And, and that team started off with 2 losses in the ACC regular season. And I promised them if they do what I said, we'll be there at the end. And but there's a little similarity there. But one of my assistant coaches one time said, I hate this team. And at that time, we were ranked 7th in the country. I said, you got pretty damn high goals, that kind of thing. But that team ended up being a lot better at the end of the year, too.
Roy, Luke's shooting a pretty high percentage from the free throw line compared to what he's done throughout his career. Has there been any mechanical changes, anything you've
I
noticed?
told him it was silly for him not to be one of the leading free throw shooters in the league. It's one of our things we had in our conference. I don't call them exit interviews like they do in professional sports, but our player meetings in spring, I said, you should. I mean, there's no reason. And now I'm getting ready to say the same thing. There's no reason you should be shooting a percentage from the floor and three-point line. You're too good a shooter to do that, so take better shots. But free throws are easy because you don't, should I be taking this shot? Is coach going to get mad if I take his shot? I mean, if the referee calls a foul and he hands you the ball, so there's no doubt about whether it's a good shot. So shoot the sucker and make it. But I think the shot selection's been more of a problem with some of the field goal percentage numbers and the three-point numbers. But free throws, I did talk to him in the spring, and he understood. if he misses 10 of them up there, don't you show up at the next press conference. Okay.
Roy, you said throughout the season you still expect this to be a good shooting team.
Mhm.
Is there a number to you that signifies like, okay, this is what I view as a good shooting team?
Yes and no. When a guy cocks it and puts his elbow underneath and starts to shoot it, and I start feeling good before he lets it go, that's what I'm getting. That's what I want to get to. Yeah, we've had some numbers. I think I've had a team here that shot 49.9, but I don't think I've ever had a team shoot 50% here. But I had some teams at Kansas that shot 50%. So that number I always like. But during the course of a game, I don't say, okay, if that goes in, we're going to be at 49.99. But I just think that Rafe LaFrentz, when he used to start to shoot a turnaround jump shot, I started smiling because he was going to go in. Sam Perkins, when he turned his right shoulder to shoot that big lefty jump hook, who was really the first player that I ever worked with that had the jump hook, and we worked on it a great deal. But Tyler Zeller, if he turned, I thought I started feeling pretty good. Tyler Hansbrough, so that's where I want to get to, is when they cock it and start to shoot it, I think it's going in. That's a good feeling to have if you have that happen a lot during the course of a game.